Welcome to week 3, where we'll be looking at project management and ethical research. Now, time management is often overlooked, but it can be a predictor of success. For example, it's obvious to the marker whether you have proofread your work. If it's full of typos, you are probably rushing in the final 20 minutes to complete your work before the deadline. Whereas if it's been proofread, it tells the marker that you have allowed time for the final review and edit stage. It tells us that you've been more organized in preparing your document, and it also produces a more professional looking product, which obviously impacts upon the final mark. Now, managing your time is a crucial part of this particular project, because what we want to do is make sure that you don't obsess over the research, just finding that one more source and not allow sufficient time for the writing process. You need to have a balance between research and writing. Writing is part of the process of clarifying your thoughts. It will help you streamline your argument. It will help you work out what's relevant and what is not, what evidence is strong and where it should feature in your project. You might not use everything that you write. You may actually only use sections of what you've been working on in an entire day, but it still helps you produce your finished product. So writing is just as important as the research process. Now, to make sure that you get the balance right, we encourage you to formulate a plan for ascertaining time to each stage of the project over the next 9 weeks. And we encourage you to do that by requiring you to include that time plan in your project plan, which is due in week 5. So the material we're looking at this week is really important for your project plan, but ultimately for your success. Aside from managing your time, you need to remember that you're also managing information, vast volumes of information in a research project as large as this. Although it feels boring and technical to think about how you're going to manage and store that information, it's an important part of the process. The last thing that you want to do is lose 2,000 words you've just written, or to not be able to locate the sources that you found last week, and so you have to go and look for them all over again on the databases. Another example is wasting research time by performing the same search that you did previously because you've not kept sufficient notes of what you have done to date. In large projects like this, the distinction or HD answer doesn't come out of nowhere. It doesn't eventuate from nowhere. It develops through a combination of time and effort, reading and writing, but also planning and document management. There's also some tips in there for managing groups as well. Although it's entirely up to you whether or not you work in teams as part of the research part of the assessment, you will encounter group work as a lawyer. You'll often drop in and out of a file and doing specific tasks for supervisors, and for larger cases you may be set research tasks and asked to present what you find out to your team or your supervisor. The equilibrium section of the study guide has a video on managing teamwork, as well as one focused on avoiding procrastination and finding motivation. Now, we're also looking at ethics this week, and although it's not particularly relevant to this research project, it might be relevant for your future work. Every day, lawyers collect information about clients. What's stopping them from taking that information and publishing it? What about community legal centres that want to advocate for change, and so they want to establish data that supports their claims that say there's a significant trend in elder abuse? What stops them collecting information about clients and then publishing that? The Code of Ethical Conduct is there to prevent harm to people who have become participants in research projects, whether or not they wanted to become participants. And although it's not relevant for this project right now, you need to turn your mind to it whenever you're involved in a research project in the future. So it's important to be alert to ethics, and it's therefore important for you to work through that material at this point in time. And note, of course, that if you go on to undertake honours or engage in any higher degree studies, then again, ethics might be relevant to what you do. That brings me to the end of this video for week 3, and I look forward to seeing you in the workshop. If you have any questions in the meantime, please feel free to get in touch. See you then.